I'm going to talk about adopting the replicated enterprise portal. So I think I've talked about the enterprise portal a couple times at RepliCon. We're now in beta, and we have end customers who were using the enterprise portal with some of our vendors. And so now's a great time to start adopting it, configuring it, and getting it set up. So first, what I'm going to kind of discuss is I'll give you an overview, just a reminder of what the enterprise portal is. And then we're going to talk about what it's going to take to like set it up and kind of go through your initial enterprise portal adoption flow. And then we'll talk about some new features that we've launched and a couple things that are coming down the pipe. So to start, the enterprise portal is a review, right? This is our our attempt to create the best unboxing experience for self-hosted software that's possible. So what's the best way to really manage and install and update and support self-hosted software? We think it's the replicated enterprise portal now. We think it's industry leading. We've looked at everything else that's out there, purpose-built solutions by large vendors. We think what we have is still better than anything else. Ultimately, it guides users through installation and updates. It allows them to invite additional users. You can invite additional users. It uses one-time passwords, with email for authentication. The customers can upload support bundles, get instructions on collecting them. You can brand this, control colors, logos. You can control the email content that goes to your customers, control the branding and HTML on that. And you get visibility into installation and update attempts through reporting as well. Today, the embedded cluster, or the enterprise portal is for embedded cluster and Helm only installs and updates, but we do expect to be able to deliver support for COTS in sort of the coming months. And then we're looking at what we can do to help put curl on here, particularly for migrating curl instances over to embedded cluster. Okay, so how do you use this? How do you adopt the enterprise portal? The first thing is right now, I think this is on for about half of our customers. So if you don't have access to it, let us know you want to try it out and we'll get it toggled on for your account. Some of the accounts that we don't have it toggled on for are just a little bit more, they're using COTS and curl more. And so we haven't really enabled it on their accounts yet until we have the support for those things. But that's the first piece. Make sure you get access to it. Then you're going to go to the enterprise portal. You're going to land on the settings page, and here is where you want to configure the custom branding. Make sure that your custom domain is hooked up. This will kind of give you a more like kind of experience that feels really custom to your application. So I would encourage you to pick some custom colors. It should only take, everybody has some brand colors. Pick a background and add your page title in. Just try to make this something that feels like your brand. Next, you'll kind of follow along. If you look at this at the tabs here, you've got the knowledge base, and that's where you can manage the post and pre-install instructions. So when your customer is going through an install flow of an embedded cluster or of a Helm chart, there's a little kind of preview markdown. You can put whatever you want in there. You're going to want to fill that up with like prerequisites or anything else that might be relevant to your application. And then post instructions might just be information about where they should go, how to operate the application, links to more of docs, etc. When you're doing a Helm install, one of the things that we're really asking you to do is to document how you want your customers to create what we're calling the My Values YAML. And that's the values override, because ultimately, when your customer is kind of ready to do an install, they often need to really edit that and create their values override. So we want you to document that, and we link to that specifically in the install flow. The next part is email delegation and the content. So again, you can set a custom from email address. You can set up the DNS for that. We really recommend that you do that in order to kind of create a more authentic and white labeled experience for your customers. And then you can change all the content. So by default, there's some custom content, and it's got it's Jinja templating, so you can just edit that together, use those same templates, and hopefully display an email that drives your customers and kind of feels on brand for you as well. And then the next part is just make sure that you have these different install types on licenses, and we'll talk more about that. I've got a screenshot of that coming up next. Okay, So then you've got this set up. Now it's time to test out the enterprise portal, maybe with a developer license, just internally. And so on every customer record, you're going to see this new enterprise portal access tab. Click there to enable the enterprise portal for that customer. That will keep all of your other customers on the download portal. Their experience won't change. It just allows you to kind of test this out with one customer. Eventually, you will probably want to disable the download portal for all customers, and then that will push them to use the enterprise portal. And you'll invite everybody to the enterprise portal, and that will be kind of how you migrate eventually from download portal to the enterprise portal. But today, you just want to test this out on a single license. Then you're going to, say on that same customer record, go over to the manage section and just adjust the license levels and settings. So specifically, you kind of want to make sure that it has either the Helm CLI, the embedded cluster turned on, and then if you want to have the air gap options, multi-node, et cetera, turned on for those install types, you should do that. But these really drive the experience for your customer in terms of what options they have available to install. Next, you'll go back over to that access tab and you will invite a user. So this could be invite Bob at some big bank, or it could just be inviting yourself to on a dev license to access this. That will send an email that says you've been invited to the enterprise portal for your company. And you could again have kind of customized that email and designed it, but you're going to get an email. You'll click accept invite, and then you'll accept the invite and you'll be in the enterprise portal. From there, you're going to want to try an installation. So pick either a Helm install or a Linux install, fill out the information. In this case, this one, is asking some questions about network connectivity because we want to know if it's an air gap install or if it's a proxy install, because we do change the instructions based off of that. So you'll fill out the install instructions, and then once you start an install and you provide a nickname, that creates a just-in-time service account in the background. And you'll be able to watch from the vendor portal on the customer record, on the reporting tab, you'll be able to see an install attempt begins, right? So this could say pending, this could say completed. This, in this case, it's stalled because it's been out. Nothing's happened for some amount of time. But you will start to see these install attempts. And that's a really important feature of the enterprise portal, is understanding what's happening with each customer. Are they, starting an install? Where are they getting stuck? Then you can reach out and try to provide more support to them. Okay, so once that install is complete, you should see an online instance, or if you did an air gap install, you'll see an air gap instance. And, that's just going to show up here. So just want to see that the instance is there in the enterprise portal. You'll also see the instance record in the vendor portal, so you can see it in both places if you want. And next, we're going to move on to shipping an update. So you'll create a release, and you'll promote that release to a new channel. And when you do that, you're going to want to check this send update notification emails to enterprise portal users. So what that will do is when you promote your release, once it kind of builds, we will then send an email based off of your edits to the update notification email. We'll send an email to the users that have the enterprise portal access and are subscribed to that channel. So if you did an install on stable channel and you promote this to stable, that email address that you had, that had joined up to the enterprise portal will now get a notification that an update's available. Again, you can change the look and feel of this completely. You can use these templates to adjust the email, but you'll then click view update, and that'll take you into the update of that instance. And so from here, you can follow the update instructions, right? So you're going to export credentials, run the new Helm install command, or if it's an embedded cluster, in this case, this is an online embedded cluster, or actually an air gap embedded cluster, it's going to give you the instructions to download the update, extract the package, import the air gap bundle, visit the admin console, start up the new deployment, and mark the update complete here. One thing that is happening now with the enterprise portal is we will have, even without uploading a support bundle, by just following these instructions to do an air gap install or to do an air gap update, we are maintaining what we call an air gap instance record. And so it's basically the exact same thing that would happen if you uploaded a support bundle, except it has a lot less data. So it doesn't have all the visibility into uptime and versions and things. It's sort of just like a placeholder for a customer downloaded a version of your software, did an install, and then marked the installation complete. That now creates this record, and that's how they follow along for updates to air gap instances. And so again, when they're ready to do the update, they follow the instructions and they mark the update complete, and that increments the version that they're on to whatever version that they did the installation or the update against. So this is a way for your customers to now really keep track of their versions and you to see the version that they're running even in an air gap environment. So it gives more air gap visibility than we've really had before, because collecting a support bundle, uploading it in an air gap environment was a little bit more tedious. So this at least gives you visibility into what version they're running. Have they downloaded the latest assets? Have they moved on to the next version? And then now that's kind of the core functionality. And then I'd say like the next part is just, hey, go to the support tab, pick what type of install you did, follow the commands to actually generate a support bundle, either, from the UI or from the CLI, and then upload it here, as an end customer. Again, you'll see it in the vendor portal as well. So it's on both sides. And that gives you a chance to, again, share the actual enterprise portal, support bundles with, with yourselves or for your customers to share them with you. If you do that, I think you'll really get a good sense for the overall experience. I would actually recommend that you do this for both like a Helm install, an embedded cluster install, and probably an air gap install of each one, and an update for all of those as well. So there's a couple. You should maybe have 4 instances that you install, 4 instances that you update, and you can really understand the flow that your customer is going to have when they get invited to this, to this platform. Cool. So if you have any questions about that, reach out in the channels, reach out, create support issues. We really want to help make sure that you've adopted this well, this is working for you. So far, the feedback has been really strong from both vendors and from end customers who have used this to actually do installs. So our intention is for this to improve the key metric that we call installation success rate. Currently, the embedded cluster has a very high installation success rate on more recent versions, 96%. We want Helm installs to be 96 or 95% successful when started with the enterprise portal. So it is very important for us to see your customers succeeding with an installation of your product, using this, seeing the updates, following through, and just managing to keep, on top of what's happening with their instance. Okay, a couple new features that we've launched in the last quarter. One of the bigger features, it's actually quite interesting, is a headless enterprise portal. So we took all these APIs and all the instructions and everything that we're doing here, and we made it available through an API. What that means is that you can truly control your own customer portal, right? Maybe your existing customer portal that you have, and you want to just integrate the back end functionality. You want to build the UI and use us to kind of drive the back end functionality because we have the licenses, because we have all this other information. You can now do that. That would allow you to also put in your own auth and do some of your own user management if you wanted to. You can kind of decide how you want to integrate that. But we think this is a really kind of powerful way of consuming the enterprise portal. We actually debated when we first were building this if we wanted to build it to be headless kind of from the start or come out with the UI. And ultimately decided the UI was really helpful in terms of helping people understand the value and the vision of this. But having a headless option has always been important so that you can integrate this into whatever user experience you want to drive. Also launching, hopefully, I think today, is going to be trial signups. So what that means is that you'll be able to toggle on in the enterprise portal settings, enable self-service trial signups. And when you do that, you'll get a new little screen, like, available at /signup that gives you the ability for your customers to type in their company name, type in a work email address, verify their email. So that, it'll require that they actually own that email. And then that will generate a access to their enterprise portal for them. And from there, that also will generate a customer record in the vendor portal. So those two things will be there. They'll automatically be in their team, and they can follow through on the installation instructions for that trial license. So this would allow, if you're like, hey, we just want to, send a link over to some, one of our prospects and allow them to trial out our enterprise offering, you'll now have the capability to do that without, generating a license and everything else that would kind of generally come along with it. So it could be an interesting way to help trials self-serve. The next part is just, when you're configuring a customer access to the enterprise portal, you might want to restrict the domains of users from that customer so that, if this is a some big bank license, only users with some big bank email addresses can actually access the enterprise portal. So that's up to you. You can add different domains in there. You can add multiple domains, and then that will restrict who you and your customers can invite to that enterprise portal. Additionally, one of the things that we saw is that sometimes, these install attempts get started and then they kind of get abandoned. And so we created the ability for the customers to resume an existing install attempt. So maybe they clicked in, they started to see the instructions, and they realized, oh, I needed to get something else provisioned. And so they came back later and they want to continue this install. That'll give them the same service account token that'll allow them to do that. Or they can discard these if they're like, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. So that's a nice kind of, continuity feature. And I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's important to kind of highlight, we are creating these air gap instance records for, for the new installs. But if a customer has an existing installation out there that's air gap and they've never uploaded the support bundle, what they should do is actually create an air gap instance record manually. And what that does is they can say, hey, here's the service account that I'm going to use to manage this. Here's the version that I'm currently on. And then more recently, we added, here's the admin console that I access this, if this is a Linux install, and that will save that record. So when an update is shipped, they can say, oh, there's a new version. They can follow along based off of what they input here, that there's an update from 3.1.7 to 3.1.8. One thing we noticed when we were kind of onboarding some customers into the enterprise portal is sometimes you have a customer or a license and you've done a test install with their license before. Maybe you did a test air gap install, or you just tested it out, on an online install. Currently, those instances will show up as likely inactive instances in the enterprise portal. And so we wanted to give you the ability to clean those up. So if you in the vendor portal see an instance record and you're like, I don't really want this to show up as an inactive instance for the customer, you can come archive it. When you archive it, it will no longer show up for the customer in their enterprise portal. It'll just disappear from there. You'll still be able to see it as an archived instance in the vendor portal, but it won't show up in the customer's enterprise portal anymore. And then finally, I kind of highlighted this briefly, but now for all of the embedded cluster installations, because there is an admin console that still is useful for doing the updates, we give during the install process, during the manual instance record creation, we give the customer the ability to save their admin console URL. So oftentimes, this is like that COTS admin, this is that UI that exists for the embedded cluster. This is how they're actually managing that instance in terms of updates. And so by saving that URL, it just, if anybody else needs to update it later, they don't have to go figure out where that admin console lives. That record will now exist with the instance in the enterprise portal. That's really it. I think in terms of what's next, the key thing that we're going to really focus on is two pieces. One is fully custom install instructions. And so today it's kind of like a bit of a template. We're going to give you all of that template and let you edit it completely. And you'll still be able to use, some templating language and use some variables in there, but you're going to be able to completely customize. If you want to, put a custom install step in, you want to, remove a step, say something else, you're going to be able to totally customize that install instructions for all of your different options, air gap, online, embedded, Helm, etc. So that's a big project for us and something that we've heard from customers is going to be important. And the next piece is just deeper integration with security. So we do plan to allow you to attach your SBOMs, attach your security scans. One of the things that Han will talk about in a little bit is a network policy report that we're going to help generate with the compatibility matrix. You'll be able to attach those things, be able to attach signatures. We basically want you to be able to attach any security artifacts so that way your customer can sort of see all of your, the scanning and everything else that you've done, the SBOMs, and have a little visibility into the proactive security aspect that you're taking. And you'll see a lot more integration of security into the core replicated product over the next few quarters, because obviously with Secure Build, we're really trying to focus on delivering not just the most reliable and best enterprise software experience, but the most secure as well.